You think it's worth more than it is. Therefore, you're willing to overpay for the card. And then when the rug gets pulled out from under you, that's where the negative feelings come in. That's where people go, I got to get out of this hobby because I'm going to lose my shirt. It's a real problem. Shill bidding is ruining the hobby. Instead of paying for what the card is actually worth, you're paying an inflated price. And the problem is that people are just not paying attention to this. And you really should. This could actually destroy the hobby that we all love because the cards are not worth what you think they're worth. And eBay is really short-sighted and they should be paying more attention and they're not. The chickens are coming home to roost and unfortunately nobody is paying attention to the front door. So while everyone is praising all the things that are happening in the hobby and hobby positivity, meanwhile, people are just pumping up prices and you're getting scammed out of your cards. Now, I know you might think, like, well, who cares? Like, what does it matter? Well, because the people that are leaving the hobby are the people that you want to buy your cards. And they're not going to stick around if everything is overinflated. Could this be the death of eBay? Now, I know you think that's impossible, but then again, it's really not impossible. There was a time when people thought there was no way to get rid of America Online. There was a time when everybody owned a BlackBerry. And there was a time when Motorola was the #1 cell phone in the world. Those days are long gone. And those were all impossible to imagine. So the fact that eBay right now is the #1 platform for selling sports cards doesn't mean that it has to be the #1 platform tomorrow. And if you're not focused on the future, then you're part of the past.
Sports show every Friday, hot take, what's the market, behind the scenes from the car shows to the streets. There's only one show, there's only one show I wanna watch.
Welcome back to EDI Sports Show. I'm Doc Schwartz and I post a video every week about sports and sports cards. If you're new to this show, we've got 4 segments. There's a hot take, where's the market, behind the scenes, and then your viewer comments at the end. And don't forget to vote in the community poll. That's right on the community page. So let's get into this week's hot take, which is shill bidding. Yes, what is shill bidding and why is it bad? And last question, how will shill bidding destroy the hobby? So those are the 3 questions we're going to take a look at. So let's look at the first question. What is shill bidding? And the answer is shill bidding is when a group of people decide that they are going to inflate the price of a card through manipulation. So either they create a bunch of accounts on eBay and through those accounts, they all bid up the price. Now, here's where it becomes a problem. Either they never pay for the card at the very end, because obviously they're all in agreement. We're not going to pay for the card, but we're just going to bid it up. Or they actually do pay for the card. But again, the only thing that they're really paying is the fee to eBay because they're paying themselves. So is it worth 10% to make a card worth $1,000 more than it's worth? Maybe. But what about if you could make a card worth $500,000 worth than what it's worth? And that's where shill bidding really becomes a big problem. And here's what's happened. Now, what I want to do is give a shout out to Sports Card Radio. For all of you in the hobby that don't seem to understand, Sports Card Radio is the only one that covers shill bidding. They are the only ones, and I know that the neurodivergent community on YouTube needs things spelled out specifically because you're literal as F. So here we go. This is what I'm saying. Sports Card Radio was the original YouTuber covering shill bidding. A lot of other YouTubers stole their scripts and wrote videos that were exactly the same. So if you're a copycat, that's who you are. You're a copycat. You're not the original. You didn't do the research. You didn't do the homework. You didn't create the video. You created your own video stealing Sports Card Radio's information. That's not creativity, that's drama. So here we go. This is where we are in terms of why shill bidding is bad. I'm not going to sit here and lecture people. If you're a criminal, you're not going to listen to me anyway. You're doing anything that you want to do and you don't care about anyone else. So it doesn't matter what I think or what I say. But for everybody else who actually is not a criminal, and I would assume that 99% of my audience are not criminals, so here's why shill bidding is really bad. Now, if you remember way back in the pandemic when things were going up and up and up, no one really actually analyzed what was happening. And again, at the time it was difficult to analyze, but now that we're several years out of the pandemic, we can look back and go, well, what actually happened? Now, there were several factors for why the sports card market went hot and then blew up to a balloon, and then the balloon burst. All right. So one of them is eyeballs on the hobby. Now, you had, and there's a drinking game now every time I say the word influencer, so I'm going to say it again. So every influencer, Gary Vee and Jeff Wilson and Card Collector 2 and the great curator who's disappeared and Gamble, and all these guys, when they pumped up sports cards. Now, I'm not saying they pumped and dumped. I'm saying pumped up in terms of the hype machine. More eyeballs came onto the hobby, and so people got into it. Now, here's where things get into trouble. Shill bidding started to happen because people started to make money. And once you put money into a hobby, scammers get interested. They're like, ooh, I could make money doing this. And how can I make money as illegally as I possibly can? Again, scammers are criminals. They're not you. 99% of my audience are not criminals. You would never do any of these things. I don't expect you to even come up with these schemes on your own. But here's the truth. Here's reality. Here's what's actually happening. So what happens is the scammers shill bid the cards up. And if you remember the 1986 Fleer Michael Jordan rookie card, that card got shill bid. Now, how do I know that? Because look at what it sold for. It sold for a record $720,000 back during the pandemic. Now, how do I know that was shill bid? Because it's not worth $720,000. It never was. It never will be. It's just not there. And so that's how I know that was a product of shill bidding. Now, eBay even admitted, and they kicked off multiple sellers from their platform that were found guilty of shill bidding. Because again, it's a group of sellers that work together. That's why it's a conspiracy. That's why it's illegal. And if you do it on a platform like eBay, it's actually against interstate commerce because eBay is a internet seller. So you're going across state lines. So if one guy is in California and another guy's shill bidding is in Denver, that's a federal crime. So the FBI has to get involved, and there's a lot of problems. But once you shill bid a price up, the issue is, well, that price needs to be readjusted back to reality because that's an inflated price. It's not real. And that's the problem with shill bidding, is that now people in the hobby think that prices are supposed to be at a certain level, when in reality, they're not. So I know that most of my audience, and I know most of the people in the hobby, do not have an academic background. I know that you guys don't have any idea about psychology. So I'm going to teach you a new technique. Well, actually, it's an old technique in psychology, but it's new to you. And it's called reframing.
Frame things in a positive light.
Now, what reframing does is it actually takes a look at reality from a different perspective. And the reason that you want to reframe things is because you want to look at it more clearly. The way that most of you, and that's not because of you, it's because of society, it's because of social media, but the way that most of you view the world is through a very negative lens. Literally everything is doom and gloom. Just look at your own life. Are you happy with your life, or are you upset with your life? Are you happy with your life, or are you frustrated? You're frustrated. And so when you're frustrated, you see everything as horrible. as negative, as, oh my God, the sky is falling. But here's the issue. That's not what's happening in the hobby. So let's reframe what's going on. The 1986 Michael Jordan PSA 10 was worth $40,000 in around 2018, before the pandemic. During the pandemic and with shill bidding, they shill bid the card up to $720,000. Now, some sucker bought it, or maybe not. We don't really have any evidence of who bought the card. Isn't that curious? Wouldn't you like to know who spent $720,000 on the card? Which is why I think you can prove that it was shill bidding. No one bought the card. No one paid for it. They shill bid the price up, and then no one paid the bill. And yet, that $720,000 price tag went on Jeff Wilson's app as a real price. That's how you're getting scammed, because his app is trying to tell you what cards are worth, and they're not worth anywhere close to what his app is telling you. It actually might take me 10 to 20 minutes per card to figure out the real value of a card. Now, I showed you guys last week the Tom Seaver rookie card, and I have a graded one as well. So I told you guys basically what these cards were worth. This one is worth around $700 ungraded, and this one is worth around $2,000, graded at a 6.5. That's what it's worth. Now, you can argue that's not what you want to pay for it. Okay, that's fine. And I don't blame you. You might not want to plop down $2,000 for a rookie card for a guy that no longer pitches. I understand. But that's not the point. The point is, this is really what it's worth. Now, what I had priced on it, I actually had $2,250 on it, because 6 months ago, it was worth around $2,500. So I was selling it for $2,250, about $250 less than the top end. So there's a range. But it's worth today still around $2,000. So if you were to pay $1,800 or $1,900, you'd be getting a deal on this card. And that's the point, is that you have to know what it's worth to know what to pay. So if you don't want to pay the top dollar amount, again, it's worth around $2,000. But if you don't want to pay $2,000 and you want to get somewhat of a deal on it, okay, well then you need to be under $2,000. But if you don't know that, what are you going to pay for this card? And if you don't know that, what are you going to pay for this card? Because would you pay $1,000 for this card if this one's worth $2,000? And that's the problem, is some of you would. Now, I can't tell you what to do with your money. So if you want to pay $1,000 for this card, be my guest. But it's only worth $700. I'm sorry to tell you that. But yeah, could you get it graded? But that's the point. It's ungraded. It doesn't matter what you think it is. It matters that it's ungraded. And I see so many people trying to do this, trying to upsell their ungraded cards as if they're graded. If you want it graded, get it graded. If it's ungraded, you cannot sell it for an imaginary graded price. So this is worth $2,000. That means this is not worth $2,000. I don't care what you're saying. Now, based on my estimation, I think this is probably a 5.5 or a 6. I think it's less than this one, which is the reason why I graded this one, because I wanted to grade the higher quality card. I wanted to keep the lower quality card in my PC. I want to get more money for the graded card. So I thought this one was better. So a 6.5 means that this one's probably a 5 or a 5.5. That's the reality of it. I know that, and now you know that on YouTube. So here's my point. The 1986, and this is reframing, the 1986 Michael Jordan rookie card was worth about $40,000 in 2018, okay? When we got to the pandemic, it went shill bidded up to $720,000. And right now, some people are spending about $150,000 for that card. You are overpaying. What the 1986 Michael Jordan Fleer rookie card, PSA 10, is probably worth is $100,000. Now, here's the reframing. It went from $40K to $100K, but that's not what you're thinking. You're going, it went from $720 to $100, but that's not reality. It didn't go from $720 to $100. $720 was shill bid. $720 never existed. $720 is not even a real number. It's a fantasy land. It didn't exist. The real number is $40K, which is what it was worth in 2018, till today, which is worth around $100. So if you bought it in 2018 for $40K, then it's worth $100K today, and you doubled your money. I mean, you tripled your money. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. You did great. You did great. But that's not how you think. You think based on the shill bidding numbers. And that's why the hobby's being ruined. Because all these people that came in during the pandemic are now looking at the sports card hobby and saying, all these prices have come down significantly. I mean, we're talking 90%. I mean, from 720 to 100, it's just a complete crash. The problem is that was all shill bidding. Those cards were never worth that, ever. Your cards are not worth what you think they're worth. They're just not. It doesn't mean they're worthless, but they're not worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're not worth millions of dollars. They're not worth that. You need to reframe and get back to reality. So that means that the PSA 9, and I wrote this out. So the PSA 9, 1986 Fleer Jordan, and I wrote all this out because I thought this was important. So if the PSA 10 is worth $100,000, what's the PSA 9 worth? Well, it's not worth 90. No, it's probably worth closer to 75,000. The PSA 8 is probably closer to 40K. That's what the 10 was worth in 2018. So a PSA 8 is now worth probably 40K. And that means the PSA 7 is probably closer to 10,000. And then single digits after that. That's the way it goes. The 10 is always going to be worth more because it's supposedly the best condition. Now, again, the problem that we have with the last week's episode was Your Grading Card Company Sucks, is that there are fake PSA 10s, which means that I wouldn't buy a PSA 10 and your PSA 10 is not worth as much anymore. So that's the problem, is that you have pressure now on, because of the scammers and because of the shill bidders, that your cards are just not worth what they are. Now, in terms of value, just to let you guys know, like I could have bought Pokemon cards back in the day. Like Pokemon came out in 1989 with, pocket monsters. I could have bought all of those cards. I didn't. Probably the worst idea I could have had. But when I sold off my hoard, I actually sold off 6, count them, 6 unopened 1989 Upper Deck cases. Just sealed cases. So if I had bought Pokemon back in the day, I probably would have had sealed cases. I probably would have had 4 unopened OG Pokemon cases. Now, Logan Paul bought one for $4 million. Turned out to be fake, but he bought an entire case for $4 million. That means that 4 unopened cases, if I had bought Pokemon back in the day, I would have 4 unopened cases. I know that. That's how I ran my business. I would keep some unopened. And since I didn't care about Pokemon, I probably wouldn't have ripped anything. I would have just put it away in a room and just left it there for 30 years. So I would have had 4 unopened OG cases, which means that would have been worth $16 million. Now, I sold 8 million cards. Yes, folks, I sold 8 million cards. The whole 8 million hoard was never worth $4 million, let alone $16 million. And so all of you need to understand that all of your sports cards are not worth as much as you think they're worth. So reframe it. If you want the hobby to continue, you need people to have a healthy mindset about what's going on. They can't be thinking shill bidding numbers, which again, unfortunately, is being promoted unintentionally. I want to make this clear because since Jeff Wilson is part of the neurodivergent community and he doesn't understand nuance, he has no sense of humor, he's a very literal guy. So for Jeff Wilson, which I doubt he's watching this, but if he is, Jeff Wilson, you didn't intend to promote shill bidding. You didn't intend to ruin the hobby. I understand that. I get that now. I see that in your Cards HQ videos. You actually love the hobby, but you have no idea what you're doing. I mean, that's the truth. And that's not libel. That's not slander. You legitimately have no idea what you're doing. You are learning on the job. And because you're doing that, you're making inadvertent mistakes, not on purpose, but some of them are very detrimental to the hobby and to yourself. And so one of the things that I want you to be able to know is that your app is including the shill bidding prices. So when you tell people what cards are worth, they're not worth what your app is saying. They're just not. It takes me 10 to 20 minutes per card to figure out, well, what is it worth? It took me a while to figure out what this card was worth because prices are all over the place. What is a 6.5 Tom Seaver rookie worth? Okay, so I had to look and go, okay, well, one sold for $2,500, one sold for $1,000, one sold for $4,000, one sold for $3,000, one sold for $17,000, one sold for $13,000. I mean, it's all over the map. And that's because you're dealing with collectors. Not every collector is going to pay the same amount, but there's a value there. Based on what people are paying, they're paying a value. There's a perceived value of the card. So the perceived value of this card at a 6.5 is $2,000. That's the market. That's what people perceive it to be worth. Now, that doesn't mean what you're going to pay. It just means that's what it's worth. And I know that's difficult for a lot of you people to understand. You're like, no. The comp is what someone paid for it. No. That's what its value is. The value becomes perceived. That's why shill bidding is so dangerous, because it changes the perception of the card. You think it's worth more than it is, therefore you're willing to overpay for the card. And then when the rug gets pulled out from under you, that's where the negative feelings come in. That's where people go, I got to get out of this hobby because I'm going to lose my shirt. That's why I need everybody to get back to being real and get back to being authentic and get back to being a normality in the hobby. The cards are worth what they're worth, but you don't know what they're worth. You don't know what they're worth. I've had comments, and we'll get to the viewer comments at the end of this show, but I've had comments of people were saying, oh, everybody knows what the cards are worth. No, that's the problem. No one in the hobby knows what the cards are worth. I've talked to so many people, and it's the same thing. People think cards are worth X, and they're really worth Y. And I'm going to get to that in Where's the Market. Literally, stay tuned. You're going to love to see what I show you on Where's the Market. So that's where we are. That's the issue. We need eBay to somehow get ahead of the curve and figure this all out. Now, they did the great thing. They kicked off the people that they found shill bidding. The problem is that it's happening every single week. And they just don't have the staff, or they don't have the technology, or they just don't understand what's going on. I don't think they're really on top of how nuanced this market is. I don't think they understand sports cards clearly, because they treat it like everything else. In fact, the sports card hobby needs specific rules. You should not be able to list a reprint without a toggle. It should say reprint or original. And eBay doesn't have that toggle. So when you do a search, you can't separate out reprints from what you're searching for. That's a huge problem. There's so many problems with eBay. The issue is there's nowhere else to go right now. It is the largest seller online of sports cards. That's where people go. And it's a real problem. So hopefully either eBay fixes what it's doing or someone else comes in and says, look, we have a better idea. Now, I totally know half the things you need to do. I don't know how to create the app. I don't know how to create the back end. I don't know how to code. I don't know how to make these sites, but I do know how it's supposed to work and what you need to do to be the number one leader in the hobby. So if anybody is an influencer and you are involved in creating these sites, let me know, because I'll tell you exactly, if you want to be the trusted seller, if you want to put eBay off its game and you want to replace eBay as the number one seller online for sports cards, then get in touch and I'll tell you exactly what you need to do. Other than that, shill bidding is a real problem for you if you want your sports cards to be worth more in the future. But the first thing you need to do is reframe your brain. The 1986 Michael Jordan rookie card was worth $40K. It's now worth about $100K. And I know that you're going to go, oh no, it's worth $150. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's worth about $100. If you pay $150,000, you have overpaid for that card. It's worth about $100. So that means that you should understand that the value is $100. Therefore, if you pay $100, you've paid the most you should pay for it. That's the top of the value. Therefore, you should really be looking to try to pay less than $100 if you can. Now, again, the perception of the sellers, the people who own the cards, are screwed, because the people who own the card want it to be worth $720,000. That's what they want. But that was a fantasy number. That was a shill bid number. It didn't exist. It never existed. It should never have been reported. eBay should have gone on the news and said, that's shill bidding. That was a fraudulent sale. And eBay didn't do that. The hobby didn't do that. And that's the problem. Because if it was bought by someone, who are they? Who spent $720,000 for a card that's worth $100K? I want to meet the person who is the biggest sucker in the room. And there is no sucker, folks. No one paid for that card. Now it's time for Where's the Market? There's two things I want to do this week on Where's the Market. One, I want to show you some of the cards I'm trying to pick up for my PC. And two, I want to explain the problem with trying to buy cards in the hobby, because they go hand in hand, and I thought this was a perfect segment to kind of go over it. So here are 5 cards that I'm actually trying to pick up. The first card that I'd like to pick up is a Doc Gooden auto card. That's right, Dwight Gooden was a superstar pitcher for the 1986 Mets, and he was a key reason that the Mets won the World Series back in 1986. And for me, that's a very significant year. That was the first year that I got into sports card dealing. I was a teenager, and everything was happening in New York. The point is, 86 was a big year, and Dwight Gooden, his number was just retired by the New York Mets at Citi Field, so number 16 is now a retired number for the Mets. Now, I want to pick up this card. As you can see, so here is the listing for it. Now, this is a brand new listing. I've been looking for this card since December, and I just haven't found anything that I like. So this listing is kind of the one that I like the most. So this one is listed for $19.99 and free shipping, so that's pretty good. Okay, now here's where I want you to take a look. If you look right here, it says people are checking this out. 5 have added this to their watch list. So there are 5 people, and as you can see at the top, 1 watched in the last 24 hours. So there are 5 people who are actually looking at this card. There are 5 people who want this card. That's good. If you're an eBay seller, This is really good. You got 5 people who want your card, but that should also tell you something. It's not worth $20 because if it was, somebody would have bought it. So the question is, what is this card actually worth? And based on what I can tell, this card is worth between $10 to $12. So this listing is just overpriced, and there's no make an offer here. So here's the problem, and I want to make this very clear so people understand. If you're selling on eBay and you're wondering, people are not buying my cards, here's the reason why. So this card is listed for $20, okay? That's fine. No, shipping fees, I get it. You're going, that sounds like a reasonable number, but it's only worth $10 to $12. So you're listed way too overvalued. Now, if you had to make an offer and I offered you $10, you would refuse. And the reason is because in your mind, again, you think it's worth 20, it's only worth 10 to 12, and if I offer 10, you think I just took a 50% discount on the card. The problem is you should have listed it for $14. That's what a reasonable listing would have been. And if you listed it for 14, to be quite honest, if you had to make an offer, you probably would have sold it by now because it's worth 10 to 12. And so somebody might have offered you 12 for it. I would offer you 10, but somebody else might have offered you 12, and you could have sold it like that. So knowing what your card is worth is really important. And if I offered you 10 off a $14 listing, that's only a 29% discount. That's not so egregious. Yeah, 50% off of what you think it's worth. Yeah, in your mind, that sounds crazy. Like, well, you're offering me 10, but it's listed for 20. Yeah, because your listing is above the market so much. You're 50% over market. That's why it's a discount, because you're not in the ballpark. This card should be listed for $14. If somebody were asking me, what should I list this for? I would say list it for 14 because there's a possibility somebody might buy it now for 14 because 14 with no shipping fee. Okay, maybe somebody's going, okay. But honestly, I think the most somebody would pay for this is 12. To be quite honest, the most someone would pay is 12. I would pay 10, and I would love to have this card, but I can't get it. And that's part of the problem that I'm having is that I can't buy the cards that I want because people are just listing them for crazy, outrageous numbers. I don't know what else to say. Now, the other cards that I'm trying to get are 1933 and 1934 Gaudi cards, now commons, and I don't care any condition except for ripped. I don't want any ripped cards, just 1933 and 1934 Gaudi cards, just not ripped. Any commons, fine, I'm looking for them. Then the third thing is I want the cup signature materials. That's the set. I want them for New York Ranger players. I already have Adam Fox, and I just really like it. Again, it goes back to something that I said. It's patch and auto together. Now, it doesn't need to be a rookie patch. Just needs to be a patch, a game-used patch plus auto. And this set has that. That's why I like it. It's a great patch. It's a great auto, and I get to have the card. Again, New York Rangers, since that's what I'm collecting. And then the fourth thing is commons for 1940 play ball. Again, commons. I have about 50 of the set, and there's like 300 cards, and so I need to fill in the rest of those commons, so I'm looking for them. And then the last thing is 1951 tops. If you're not familiar with this set, this is a picture of it. So blue backs and red backs. Again, commons in any condition, just not ripped. That's all. So those are the 5 things that I'm trying to collect, and that's where's the market. Now it's time to go behind the scenes. My PC journey has been a lot of work, and the problem is that I just have way too many cards. So what I've decided to do was organize my sports cards into different bins by sport. And what I'm going to do is curate by sport first, and then hopefully put an entire PC together. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to show you some of those bins so that you understand kind of like what I'm doing, and you can decide if you want to do this as well. It's up to you. So let me take a look. This is the hockey bin, as you can see. Okay. And then this is the basketball and football bin. And then I'm going to turn it around. And so this is the baseball bin. So to be perfectly clear, there is no Will Greer card. There's no Kyler Murray card. There's no CJ Stroud. There's no Trevor Lawrence. There's not even a John Elway. Those are not the players that I'm interested when I'm looking at football. For me, I like Joe Montana. I like Barry Sanders. And I would, I've talked about this last week. One of the trends that I really love is the rookie patch autos, RPAs, but any patch auto is really good in my book. So if it's game used patch auto, I think it's awesome. If they made a really good Lawrence Taylor patch auto, I probably would buy it. So I'm looking at these kinds of cards. I am definitely doing, so this is a Lawrence Taylor. We've got Justin Jefferson. He is definitely somebody that I want in my PC. I have another one, that's a Leaf. Jefferson. Here's a Montana patch. Now, so here's the piece. So that's a patch. Now, I would prefer a patch auto. So I would sell this in order to get a patch auto. I do have a rookie, another rookie. So that's a Justin Jefferson rookie. So that's an Optic Holo. And then I have the big card. Probably my best football card is the Joe Namath rookie right here. So that's probably my best football card that I have. Now, that's football. I have some other stuff which I'm not quite sure what to do with. Now, I did talk about, so this is the patch. This is Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes. Again, patches, if I could get a patch auto, that would be nice, but I don't know if I could afford a patch auto. So this is actually the best. Now, I traded for this with a dealer that I sat next to at a show back in November. I had a graded Magic Johnson Larry Bird rookie, and he traded me 2 patch cards, Patrick Mahomes patch cards for that rookie, and I thought that was a great deal. He gave me a little bit more value in the trade, which is, again, awesome when you get to meet people who give you some value back. But he wasn't going to be able to find that rookie card, and he wanted it. And so we both worked. It was a win-win. I got more value, but I would never pay for these cards. They're too expensive for me. And he wasn't going to find that card. So when he said, like, I'll trade you for the rookie, I was like, absolutely. And I think he was a little shocked. He like, you would trade a Magic Johnson Larry Bird rookie for 2 patch cards? I'm like, yeah, I absolutely would, because that's the whole point of the hobby, is trading something that you have for something that someone else has. So that's the point. When we look at the hockey, so here's the hockey. Let me turn it around again. When we look at the hockey, obviously, if you got the Gretzky rookie. So this is a Topps. This is not a Peachy, so I only have a Topps. So that's the and then obviously you have I have every good Ranger rookie. So you got Keandre Miller, you've got Zibanejad, you've got Kakko. You've got all the greats. And obviously the great hockey players of the day. So, Steve Yzerman, Eric Lindros, another Gretzky, there's another one, Mother Gretzky. They got the Brian Leetch rookie. We've got all of these cards that I'm going to try to curate. Again, that's the whole point, is you got to go through and decide, all right, what am I keeping? What am I getting away? What am I getting rid of? Like, what am I selling? What am I not going to lug around with me for the next 20 years? And that's the point, is you have way too much stuff. I know you guys have too much stuff because I had way too much stuff. I had 8 million cards. So I got rid of the hoard, but I still have a mini hoard. I still have way too much. And so that's my goal right now, is to try to really, really consolidate and curate the most important cards for my PC, the cards that get me excited, that when I can look at it, and I need to put it in a much better way, like keeping them in these bins, it's overwhelming. Like I don't even have 1 million cards anymore, and it's still overwhelming. That's what you guys need to do. You need to get rid of most of your cards. Start really paring down. If 300, like I'm trying to do a 300 card challenge, I can already tell I'm not going to hit it. I have 300 cards right here. All right, and that's not ever all the cards that I have. So I have too many cards. I need to get rid of more cards. So come up with a number that you think you can get down to. If it's 1,000 cards, get down to 1,000 cards. Whatever the number is, it's better to consolidate than to just keep a hoard. Because when you have a hoard, you can't sell it. It's too overwhelming. And not only that, but when you go to try to sell it, you lower the value of all the cards because you just have too much bulk. And a dealer on a bulk deal is going to give you 50 cents on the dollar. That's the point. If you want top dollar, if you want 80% of comps, then you can only sell one card at a time. And if you have too many cards, you can't do that. You can't afford to sell one card at a time. It'll take too long. You don't have 30 years to sell your cards. I sold 8 million cards over 5 years. That means that I sold a lot of bulk deals. And when you sell bulk deals, you sell for 50 cents on the dollar. That's what you guys need to understand. So if your cards are worth $10,000, it means you're going to get $5K. If your cards are worth $10,000, you're going to get $5K if you sell in a bulk deal. If you want closer to $10K, you got to sell them one by one. All right, let's get to the next segment. Now let's get to your viewer comments. The first comment comes from SP123, and this is what it says. Hey EDI, can you make an update on Connor Bedard prices based on his performance? Do you think his prices make sense or still overpriced today? That was an awesome question, and to be honest, this is I think it's a perfect opportunity to take a look at what the Connor Bedard market is doing. And so I actually did some research on Connor Bedard. And so the first one that I want to show you is a PSA 9. This was a recent sale, $459. To be quite honest with you, I think it's worth about $400. So this is kind of where it is. And do I think that's outrageous? No, that's actually pretty normal for a rookie of his stature to be worth. I've seen rookie cards go way more than this, so I think this is a very reasonable, I think this is very, this is good for the hobby. This is a normal price. So if you pay $459, I think you paid a little bit too much, but if you want it for your PC and you don't want to wait, honestly, $459 is a great price. If whoever got that for $459, you got a good deal. It's worth that. It's worth that. So you didn't really you didn't pay too much more. So it's really worth that. Now the second price that I wanted to look at is the PSA 10. Now here you go. This one I think is someone overpaid. So this was the latest PSA 10 sale. So it went for $1,300. To be quite honest with you, PSA 10 is probably worth $1,000. So somebody overpaid by $300. It is what it is. Sorry. That's just the way it is. So a PSA 10 is probably worth about $1,000. Will it be worth $1,300? You got several years before that's going to happen, because Connor Bedard had a wonderful rookie year. He will probably be the rookie of the year in the NHL. He played 67 games. He had 61 points. I predicted at the beginning of the season that he would be just shy of a point a game, and that's where he is. I mean, he's a great rookie, but he's got a long way to go. He only had about 22 goals. Like I said, he only played 67 games. He missed a significant portion of the season. There are 82 games in the season, so he missed a lot of playing time. And that's going to be an issue going forward, is will he continue to get injured throughout his career? I mean, this was his rookie year, and he already had a significant injury, and players are running at him. So can he get out of the way? Can he avoid getting hit? If he can, then he's going to have a great career. But again, for him to get to this level, 1,300, he needs to score 50 goals next year, and I don't think that's happening. I think he could score 35 to maybe he can hit 40 next year. I think that's reasonable for him, but I don't think that he's going to score 50 next year, and unless he scores 50, you're not getting to the $1,300 mark. So that's the second price. Let's look at the third one. So this is ungraded, and here's where the problem is. So I think you can see, so let's go back. This was the PSA 9, so it's 459, and this is ungraded for 360. You see the problem? Like, if you're paying, and this is what everybody in the hobby needs to understand, if you're paying $360 for an ungraded card, you're paying too much. You might as well just pay $100 more and get a PSA 9. Like, seriously, you might as well pay $100 more to get a PSA 9, and then these ungraded prices will come down, because then no one's buying ungraded for these ungodly numbers. That's crazy. You should not pay more than $200 for an ungraded Connor Bedard rookie. I'm sorry. That's the market. Because if you pay $360, well, you're not getting a 9 or a 10. I mean, most probably you're not. Maybe you'll get a 9. So, okay, well, you're not making any money on that. I mean, what was the point? So you're paying $360 for a gamble? Like, a lot of you need to stop gambling. Literally stop gambling. If you want an ungraded rookie, which I would want, but I'm not going to pay $360 for an ungraded rookie, that's crazy. Like, again, I'll just wait till next year, and again, if he scores between 30 to 40 goals next year, that price is probably going to stay about the same, maybe even come down a little bit, because the hype is not going to be there anymore. Because he's going to be a good player, but he's not going to be, he's not Sidney Crosby coming out next year. It took Jack Hughes 2 years before he was able to get to 99 points. It took him a couple years. It's going to take Connor Bedard a couple years. And again, the same thing that happened to Jack Hughes. He got hurt. Connor Bedard already had a significant injury. So this is the problem that I see. To be honest, the best deal of the lot was the PSA 9. That's worth about $400. So clearly that would be what I would recommend people buy, is the PSA 9. That seems to be where the market is. So that's where I would recommend people buy. I'd buy the PSA 9. That's what seems to be worth the money. This ungraded is only worth $200. So that's my take on it. I hope that helps. All right, let's get to the next comment. And the next one comes from Royo Card 8536. And this is what he says. First of all, you do great producing your content. Thank you so very much. It's very obvious your past experience. I had zero experience background in graded cards, and I did countless hours of card hobby and content viewing. I felt very similar to how I feel during the 90s when the market flopped terribly. We had to learn grade cards to keep them from getting stolen. I buy a few cards. That said, I trust my eye to keep out of trouble. At the end of the day, I own more cards. All right, this is what I want to say. First of all, thank you for the comment. Great stuff. Again, people doing awesome work on the comments. I love the questions, so keep the questions coming. But here we go. That's the message. Buy more cards. Here's the message. Stop spending all your money. Here's the message. Don't buy the most expensive card. You don't need the most expensive card for your PC. It's a PC. You're supposed to appreciate it. You're supposed to not go into the hole. You're supposed to not bankrupt yourself. It's a hobby. It's a hobby. Put it in its place. What I want you all to do, this is what I want you to do, and I really love this comment because this helps with getting the message out there. I want you to write down all the cards that you want in your PC. Yeah, spend the time, make a list, write them out, make a spreadsheet. What are all the cards you want in your PC? Then price them out. What's the total value? How much money do you need to buy all the cards? And that's how you start to collect, is figure out, wait a minute, so I could get an ungraded card for 50% or 80% what a graded card is worth. Okay, well, here's all the cards I want. If I get them all ungraded, again, you have to price them all out. You can't just say, well, I'm willing to pay X, and it doesn't work that way. You got to look at what the market says the cards are worth. Like I said, this card is worth $2,000. Now, if you want a 6.5, you have to say, okay, well, it's worth $2K. Am I willing to pay $1,800 for it? Because as a seller, I'm willing to sell this for $1,800. Absolutely, I'd sell that for $1,800 all day. Now, when it was worth $2,500, $1,800 was like, no, I'd sell it for $2K. But now it's worth $2K, so now $1,800 is what I'm willing to take. That's how the market works. And if you're selling cards, you have to be aware of the market. So when you write down your PC cards, and again, I highly recommend you make a list. Stop going in blind. Stop just going around and buying random cards. I don't understand it. Write down the cards that you want, price them out, and then decide based on your budget, okay, these are the ones that I really, really want right now, and this is what I can pay for them. Again, based on what they're worth. So, I want the 1953 Mickey Mantle card, but I'm not willing to pay what people are trying to sell them for. I'm not willing to pay what other people are even paying for them. I think they're overinflated. I think they're part of the whole pandemic, shill bidding process. I've gone over that in the first segment in the show. I think that they're overinflated. Now, not by much. I don't think it's crazy. I don't think they're 100% overinflated. But PSA 1s are going for $3,000. It's insane. I'm sorry. It's not a rookie card. It's a 53 tops. It's a beautiful card, absolutely. And is it it's a beautiful card, but it's not a 1952 tops. It's not a 1951 Bowman. It's just not his rookie card. So you can't ask for outrageous numbers. Now, I know people are paying them. I get it. So it's not the seller's fault. It's not the seller's fault. If people are willing to pay that price, there's a perceived value of that card. Here's the problem for the people buying those cards right now. That perceived value is not real. You're buying off a perceived value that's inflated. And what's going to happen over the next several years is you're going to see there's less and less people willing to pay what you paid. So you're buying it in the hopes of selling it. You're getting screwed. That card, so a 1953 tops Mickey Mantle PSA 1 is worth closer to $1,000. I'm sorry, that's what you need to understand. It's worth closer to $1,000. So if you're paying way north of $1,000, you're overpaying. Now, if you pay $1,100, you got a great deal, because the perception is, and you got it for what it's basically worth. But you did pay $100 more than what it's worth. Okay, but $100 to get a card in your PC, it's worth it. Now, what is a PSA 2 worth? Well, it's probably worth $1,500. But those cards are going for $4K. Again, perceived value is overextended too much. And that's all. I want you guys to get all the cards in your PC. I want you to not overpay for them. I want you to get them for what the market says it's actually worth. And right now there's a perceived value that's overvalued stuff, which is why we still have prices coming down, because people are starting to realize these cards are not worth what people think they're worth. And that's it. That's the only thing you need to know. All right, let's get to the last comment. And this one was interesting. So I'm going to go into it. So it's from Egyptian Hebrew 91. So thank you very much for the comment. So here's the first one. I just see no way to make any money in this hobby. Hard to believe that some people do. I thought silver was bad. All right. Now I responded and I wanted to include that because this was an interesting little exchange. So I said, thank you for the comment. I'm a bit confused. Again, sorry for the typo. I'm a bit confused by your comment. What do you mean? This is a hobby. You're not supposed to make money. People don't make money from gardening or painting watercolors. And here was the response to that. All seems pointless to me. Love your channel. Now, obviously, thank you so much for watching Egyptian Hebrew. I love that you're watching. I love that you're a subscriber. I love that you make a comment. But this is what's troubling to me. And so I wanted to point this out. I wanted to pull out this comment. This is a hobby, folks. It's supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be about money. Can you make money with sports cards? Yes, but that's not the point of the hobby. The point of the hobby is to be a distraction. The point of the hobby is to be an escape. The point of the hobby is to have fun. Now, some people like to garden. Some people like to cook. Some people like to sew. Some people like to play bridge. Some people like to play mahjong. It doesn't matter what your hobby is. It's about having fun. Yes, it costs money to do a hobby. If you're into gardening, you have to buy seeds. You have to buy fertilizer. You have to buy tools. You have to buy the stuff in order to do the hobby. But that's not the point. The point is you're spending money so that you spend time on things that you like. If you like sports cards, which I do, I like sports cards, you spend money on that hobby so that you enjoy the hobby. So if you're into sports cards, that means you should go to sports card shows. Why? Because that's something to do and it's fun and you get to see cards and you get to talk to dealers and you get to go with friends and you get to have conversations. It's fun activity. If you're into sports cards, watch YouTube videos on sports cards. Why? Because it's fun to watch sports card videos and you get to see cards and you get to talk, you hear people talk about cards and you get to see and learn about the hobby and what things are going on and watch sports card radio and learn about the scams and the scammers. That's the point. It's called a hobby for a reason. Now, here's the issue, and I talked about this in segment 1. Shill bidding has made this all about like a stock market. And I understand where you got that confusion. Jeff Wilson confused this hobby. When he got into it, he thought cards were like stocks. He thought cards were an asset. They're not an asset. It's a hobby. It's a collectible. That means there's value. There's value to these cards. There's value to these cards, but not the value you think there is. This card, here's a Greg Jeffries rookie card from last week. I showed you guys. This card has value. Not a lot of value, but it has value. It has more value to me than it does to you. Now, would I ever buy this card again? No, that's the whole point, is I have way too many of these cards and I don't know what to do with them. But I'm keeping one in my PC because it has value to me. Now, again, could I sell this card to you? Maybe for $1. I don't, unless you want it. Again, if you wanted this card, you'd pay $1 for it, if you wanted it. But who wants it? Nobody. That's my point. And I'll even give you on this one. So here, this was the Heritage Jacob deGrom in the 1971 set, or set style, I guess, because it's a modern card. I think this is 2021 Heritage. So my point is, I was trying to buy this card for 2 years. 2 years, because I just got it in 2024. So I bought it in January. Like, it took me 2 years to get this card. And the reason is because someone tried to sell it on eBay for $10. And I'm like, $10? Now, yes, it's a short print. I get that. But it's Jacob deGrom Heritage 1971 style. It's not a rookie card. It's just a card that I like because I'm trying to get the Nolan Ryan 1971, and then I'm going to have them basically together. So I'm going to have deGrom and I have Ryan in the same set style, boom, for my PC. And that's what I want in my PC. So what did I actually pay for this card? I paid $5 for this card. Because that's kind of what it's worth, $5. It's not worth 10. But somebody thought they wanted, that it was worth 10. Again, it's not the seller's fault. That's the perception. But if you have cards listed on eBay, and this is the last one, if you have cards listed on eBay and you're not selling them, or if you have people who are viewing your cards and you get more than 3 people viewing your card is overpriced. People don't view a card unless they like the card. And if they're not buying it now, it means you are overpriced. That's it. And if you're getting lucky enough that you have a store that has people looking at your cards, my suggestion is once you have people looking at your cards, you better get your other cards on to your store. That's your trigger to say, I should list more cards. And if you can, do a coupon. Absolutely. List more cards and say, all right, look, you can get 20% off on 3 cards because your one card is not worth what you think it's worth. You're priced too high. So start trying to sell more cards. You will actually make more money if you do this. That's the way to do it. But or put a make an offer, and don't get insulted when people make offers. I don't know what else to tell you. If you're a seller, don't get insulted when people make offers. If you don't like the offer, just say no thank you. That's it. There's no other comment. You don't have to say anything else. Now, if you want to haggle and you want to be like, well, I can't sell it for this, but I could sell it for that, and you want to say like, look, this is what I will accept. This is, if you want to buy it, put this price in as an offer and I will accept that, then do that. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that I would highly recommend that. Like if I were to say to somebody for that Doc Gooden, I'll pay $10, and the person's like, well, I'll take 12. To be honest, probably 90% likely I'd be like, all right, I'll pay 12 because there's no shipping fee. So I'm like, all right, yeah, all right, I'll give you 12. But I don't even have the option of doing that. Again, I really think it's worth 10, but it's worth it to me to pay the extra $2 because I'm not paying the shipping fee. Really, for the seller, I think you guys need to understand math. The difference between $10 and $12 for you is literally 75 cents because eBay's taking the money from you. They're taking 10%. So on the $10, you're getting, a dollar's coming off. So you're getting 9. So on $12, you're getting $10.80. So it's $1.80 more. So instead of 9, you're getting $10.80. I mean, is it really worth that for you? Like, I would say sell your cards, sell them as fast as you can. Don't hold on to your cards that you want to sell them. This is a good lesson for kids. Sell your cards, sell them as fast as you can. In fact, maybe that's something we should do on this channel, which is do a selling challenge. How fast can you sell your cards? Because the speed at which you sell is the process of learning the skill of salesmanship. That's how you learn, by doing it as fast as you can. How fast can you sell 30 cards? Now, when I do a card show, when I was set up as a dealer, again, I used to do this every weekend when I was a teenager, and I did 2 shows recently. I did one in 2022, and I just did one in 2023. So I've done 2 shows in the last 5 years. And when I set up as a dealer, I am selling quick. In fact, all the other dealers can't, they're just like, they're afraid. They're like, how are you selling at the pace you're selling? I set up in November of last year and I sold 85% of my entire inventory. Every other dealer around me is like, how are you selling everything? Because I am selling fast. I am talking to people and I am finding out, what do you want? Okay, here you go. This is what it's priced at. This is what it's worth. What are you willing to pay for it? And they're going, oh, I'll pay this. And I go, okay, well, we're close. How about we pair something up? If you want to pay that for this, how about we do this? We get one, you got to pick something else, and then we can make this deal. And so people are going, okay, well, I like that price. Let's see if I like something else. I'm like, okay, well, what else do you like? Well, how about this? And then I'm giving them a deal on that second item too. Both of them are gone off my table. They're gone. I have the cash, you have the product, and we're both happy. It's a win-win. And I know what you're saying. You're like, yeah, but you didn't make as much money as you could. Yeah, but I made money. If you're not selling, you're not making money. There was a dealer that was next to me. He traded me 2 Mahomes patch cards. Again, stuff that I could never buy on my own. But he traded me 2 Mahomes patch cards for 1 Magic Johnson Larry Bird rookie. I was ecstatic. That was great. For me, that's awesome. So I'm like, okay. And he didn't sell 1 card the entire weekend. His case was unreal. He had about $1 million worth of Patrick Mahomes patch cards. He had some major, he had like a Nike tag for Mahomes. A Nike tag patch. Like, that card was sick, but it's worth like 80K or 60K or something crazy. I can't pay that kind of money. That's crazy. And that's the point, is most people can't afford that stuff. So my table was selling because it was all within the price range that people liked. I was selling rack packs. I was selling star Hall of Fame rack packs, like Ken Griffey Jr. rookie rack packs. Like, I mean, obviously there's no such thing as an upper deck, but Donruss, Fleer, Topps, all of them, rack packs. I was selling Ricky Henderson rack packs. I was selling Mark McGwire rookie rack packs. I even had one for the Olympic team rack pack. And all of them they're selling. And I was selling them because it was selling multiples. So if you bought 1, you know, it was the full price. If you bought 2, it was $10 off. And people were like, ooh, okay, well, this is interesting. So I sold a whole bunch, a box of rack packs. And I had them priced out for $25 each, and I sold them. So if you bought 1 for $25, you could buy 2 for $40. You buy 3, let's make a deal. And so as you start reducing the price, as people pay more, people want more because they're like, oh, I'm getting a deal. And that's how this works. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for joining me this week. Please join in next week. Remember to make a comment. This is Doc Schwartz saying, have a great week.